You guys, every time I'm filming story time for you guys, my battery's about to die. Hey guys, it's Tiffany Monique here. Welcome to my first story time. Yes, as you read with the title, I didn't know he was married. Say what? I didn't know, guys. Yeah, so let's get into it. Okay, first of all, I was 18 years old, just graduated from community college, right? I was doing a program in hospitality and tourism management. Anyway, I got a holiday job at what used to be the biggest airline in Jamaica at the time, Air Jamaica, Air Jamaica, and everybody wanted to work there. So I was working there, right? And then they had a staff party. So you know, I'm there with a couple friends and we just chilling. So this guy walks in and he brother looks good. Brother looks good. I ain't gonna lie, the brother looks good. You know, tall, dark, and handsome. So anyway, he walks in, and all of the girls are like going crazy. They're like, oh my gosh, who is this guy? But I don't really like the hype, so I'm just like, whatever. Anyway, he happened to be a good friend of this guy that I knew. So while we're there, you know, at the staff party, people eating, people dancing, you know, just chilling, whatever, my friend comes over to me, the guy's friend, and he says, you know, my friend would like to talk to you, and he's actually like my brother. So I'm like, okay. So all my girlfriends are getting all excited, like, oh my god, he wants to talk to you, Tiffy's you want to talk to. I was like, alright. So anyway, I go over to him and I'm like, hi, what's up? And he's like, oh, you know, you look very nice and you caught my attention from, I just walked in and I'm like, okay, cool. Guys, my battery died, so this is actually 2 days later. Anyway, so basically, I went over to him and, you know, we're just sitting there and, you know, as I said, that he told me that I was looking nice and he noticed me when he just walked in, yada yada yada. I said, okay, cool. So we kind of just there sitting and, you know, music is playing but we're not really saying anything. So I just get straight to the point. I'm like, okay, alright, but do you have a girlfriend? Yes, I got straight into it because I don't deal like that. So he's like, no, I don't. So I'm like, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. And he starts laughing and saying why I don't believe. So I say, number one, every girl in this room is attracted to you, right? And obviously you command the attention of females. So how is it that you don't have a girlfriend? I just don't understand. So he's like, no, I don't. So he's like, do you have a boyfriend? And at the time, I wouldn't call it a boyfriend, but I was kind of like talking to somebody who lived abroad, right? Met him here in Jamaica, but only met him for one day. Anyway, that's a whole another story. So I was talking to him. He lived in New York. I was in Jamaica. So I told him, yeah, well, I'm kind of talking to somebody at this time. So he's like, well, can I be honest with you? So I'm like, what? He's like, I have a girlfriend but she lives in the States, she goes to school up there. So I'm like, boy, if I never tell you that I was talking to somebody abroad, you would not have told me. I said, you guys are so wicked. So I should have said red flag right there. Anyway, so he's talking to me and he's asking me if he can get my number. So I'm like, nope, sorry, don't give out my number. The party ended and everything and people were going home and he asked me if I wanted a ride home and I was like, no, my daddy's coming to pick me up, I'm good, thank you, bye. So I left. That was that. About 2 weeks later, he came back on the Air Jamaica premises and I was walking outside and I saw him and he was leaned up on his car and everything and he's like, hey, how are you? And I was like, oh, hi. And he said that he was here to check his friend. So I'm like, okay, cool. And then we kind of just, you know, chit chat for a little and talking. And then I'm like, anyway, I'm leaving now, so I'll talk to you another time. He's like, can I get your number? And I was like, nah, sorry. So anyway, about 4 days later, I saw him again and he was in the parking lot waiting on his friend again. So I'm like, boy, I seem to be bucking up in here all the time. He was like, yeah. I was like, you want a ride home? I was like, no, I'm good. So anyway, I called my father, and my father said, we weren't in the process of moving at the time, so he's like, oh, I can't pick you up, see if you can get a ride, or, you know, see if you can take a taxi, because I can't come for you right now. And he was driving out, and I stopped, and I was like, hey, wait. Can I take you up on that offer? I actually need a ride home. And he's like, sure. So anyway, we're talking, and him dropped me home, and he's like, so no number? And I'm like, no. Now I didn't see him again, and it was in December. After Christmas, I get a call from a random number on my phone, and I don't know, but I just figured it was him, and I figured that his friend obviously gave him the number. So I was like, hello, and he's like, hi Tiffany. So I'm like, yes, let's call him Jay. So I was like, Jay, and he's like, yes. I was like, how you get my number? And he's like, don't worry about that. I'm like, alright, cool. So he's like, you know, Merry Christmas to you and your family. And I'm like, oh, thank you. And I kind of like that he was very persistent, you know. Ladies. So he's like, you know, what you doing New Year's? So I'm like, you know, going to church. And then there's usually this concert that we go to after. He's like, can I come with you? And I'm like, okay, fine, no problem. New Year's comes, we go to church, and we're going to this concert called Genesis, and he says he's never really been to any gospel concert, whatever. So this time it was my brother, his girlfriend, who is his wife, no, right, and my grandmother. And I introduced this guy to my grandmother, to Stephen, and to Jamie. And you know, we're just there having a good time, and I feel good because, you know, I just feel nice and stuff. Anyway, we get to talking and knowing each other, and about a month in, and I remember my holiday job was over. This is January now. At the time they had this thing called VIP where you can call text unlimited. So, you know, he was the first person that I ever did that with. I went ahead and spoke to my friend who was in New York, and I was like, you know, I don't think this is working. And he was upset, and he was like, what do you mean? We can work this out. And I was like, you know, the long distance relationship thing is just not good for me, and I'm sorry, you know, I just can't do this. And he was so upset with me, and I regret that. So Jay now asked me officially if I could be his girlfriend, and I was like, oh, yes. So a couple months had passed, and you know, introduced him to my cousin and everything, and my friends. Everybody knew him. He introduced me to his friends, right? Would walk in the town, right? And you know, everybody knew that we were a couple or an item. I remember one day I was talking to my cousin, and I was like, I want to play a game with Jay. So she was like, what do you mean? So I was like, I'm going to ask him, you know, what's the worst thing that I could do to make him stop talking to me. Oh, before I get to that, I remember I got a job at the airport now. Like, I was working with Virgin Atlantic, so I got a job and ticketing agent, everything. And I remember there is my friend Jody. Big up yourself, Jody. I'm going to tag you in this, right? Jody, I was talking to her, and I was telling her that, you know, I really love this guy, you know, and I really think that he's the one for me, and I think that, you know, I'm going to marry him and all of that. And she's like, Tiffy, you sound like over the top. You need to just wait, slow things down, you know, don't rush anything, just take things a day at a time. Alright, so I messaged this guy, and I'm like, yo, what's the worst thing that I could do for you to stop talking to me? He was like, I don't know, there's nothing really that you could do. So I was like, nothing at all that I could do, right? And oh, by the way, so I was 18 and he was 22, right? So he was 4 years older than me, which was a bit older than I usually went for, right? But he was like, there's nothing that you could do. So he's like, what's the worst thing that I could do to make you stop talking to me? So because I'm so in love with this guy, I'm thinking way out of the box. I'm like, you know what, I'm going to call the worst thing, so him know that there is nothing at all that can separate us because our bond is this close. I say, I don't know, I guess if you had a child or if you were married, or I don't know. And I said, it doesn't matter because it's none of that. So I'd never stop talking to you. So he was like, if I was married? So I was like, well, duh, obviously. So he's like, I have to tell you something. What? So he's like, what if I told you I was married? So I was like, listen, Jay, I don't want to play this game anymore. Let's stop. You know, it was just a joke thing, immature, whatever. I don't want to play anymore. So he's like, no, seriously. I have to tell you something. So I'm like, what? He said, I'm married. So I said, stop the foolishness now, man. Stop the foolishness. Stop it. So he's like, remember I told you that I wasn't on any social media, which he did. He told me he wasn't on Facebook or anything at all. So I'm like, yeah. So he's like, well, I want you to look up this name. And I'm like, okay then. So I go on Facebook and I type in the name that he gave me. And lo and behold, you guys, I see the profile picture with him and this young girl in wedding clothes. She's in a wedding dress, he's in a tuxedo. And like they were facing each other, and I broke down. I went from 100 to 0. I bawled my eyes out. I could not believe it. Oh my God, you evil, wicked man, how could you do this? I say, you know how much I value marriage. You know that I'm a Christian. I basically went to bed at that point and I was heartbroken. Like literally, I felt like someone had ripped my heart out of my chest and just tore it up and trampled on it and spat on it. That is exactly how I felt. I felt so betrayed. I felt disgusted because I was like, oh my gosh, I introduced this guy to my friends, my family, right? Not my mother or my father, because you know at that time I don't talk about boys with them, which I should have spoke to my mother because she is always a discerner and would say, Tiffy, I'm not feeling that one. And I was like, oh my gosh, imagine his friend. So I remembered his friend and I was like, imagine, let's call his friend D. So I'm like, imagine D knew this and he was my friend from ComC days and he didn't tell me that this guy was married. And I was talking to him for 6 months, guys, 6 months. So I called D one day. I went back to work the next day and I said to Jody, you won't believe I must start bawling. And Jody was like, oh my gosh, Tiffy. And she said, call the other guys. So I called D and I'm like, you are evil, you're wicked. Imagine I am your friend and you never tell me that Jay was a married man. I can't believe it. And he's like, well, you know, that wasn't his place. He thought that he told me from the beginning. So I'm like, I said, but you know me. You know that I don't deal with certain stuff like that. So how could you have, why didn't you come to me? He's like, you know, I'm sorry. I said, I don't want to hear from you. I don't want to hear from you. I don't want to hear from you. Never again. That was a hard time for me, guys. Immediately I had to change my number, right? Because he would not stop calling me. I had to change my number, everything, every detail. And I never spoke back to him again. Never. That was 2008, 2009. Early 2009, I never spoke back to him again. Not even now. I don't know what's happening with him. I cut him off. And you know why? Because I value marriage. I know how God looks on marriage, right? I understand what adultery is. So thank God that I did not do anything with him. Thank you, Jesus, for keeping me. I know that what the Bible talks about, like any strange woman outside of a marriage, right, that comes in, all sorts of curses will come upon her. And I'm like, I ain't about that life. Yo, I never spoke to anybody for about 2 years. I didn't speak to anybody. I did not trust any man. But thank God, he gave me the grace to forgive. And you know what I found out? So I started talking to him the October. He had gotten married the August, and his wife had left, like, obviously 2 weeks after the marriage to go for school. So this man was a wicked man. Wicked man. Wicked. But I forgive him. I release him out of my heart. And this is just to say, young ladies, please do your research. I remember I said to him, I don't know how, I never know. How did I not see any ring? He always had his left hand in his pocket. Always. And he said it to me. He always had it in his pocket. Like he would never show that hand around there. Guys, do your research. I am a firm believer now in developing yourself as an individual, right? As a single person, and wait on the right person to come along, and still do your research. Ask your mother, brother, father, sister, find out about his old friends, find out everything. Like, investigate, girl. Do your police work, because people are really sick. I didn't know. Yeah, I hope this, you know, can help somebody to get out of a situation that you know is wrong. Change your number if you have to. Tell somebody so that you're accountable to somebody. So if this person tries to come back, you know, you just tell this person and they can tell you, no, get away, don't fall prey to it. I have so many stories, y'all. So many stories. If you want to see more, right, comment down below. Tell me what you would do. What would you do, guys? And if you have any similar stories, what happened? I'm interested to know. Like, remember to subscribe to my channel, right? And yeah, I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.